Okay, good morning. Today is Wednesday, June 8th at approximately 10:11 a.m. And the Streets, Traffic and Refuse Committee meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Bosley,
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Present.
Alderwoman Peel,
Present.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd entertain we're now on item number 3, approval of minutes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, June 1st, 2022.
I move that we approve the minutes of June 21st. Where we at? June 8th? Where are we at? Give me again.
The minutes of June 1st, 2022.
Sorry, I move that we
That's okay.
approve the minutes of June 21st, 2022.
Second.
I'm sorry, that was June 1st.
Oh, then I'm so June 1st.
Yes, ma'am, he said the 21st, that's all.
Okay, I
June
said,
1st, 2022. My apologies.
Thank you.
and Alderman Vaccaro, you have a second?
Second, yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
All right.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel,
Aye.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
Okay, by your vote, you sustain the motion and the minutes of June 1st, 2022 are approved. First, I want to just apologize to you, Alderwoman Schweitzer. You did send me a text. You know what's been going on. This has been I didn't have a minute, okay, for the last couple of days. So if it was something that was coming before this committee, I'm really sorry. If it's something else, we'll talk afterwards, okay? Because
Thank you very much. That'd be great.
Okay. All right, so now we have item number 1, which is Board Bill 24, which is Board Bill by Alderman John Coatar. But before we do that, I invited Jamie Wilson here, and I wanted to just talk to him a bit about the speed humps and if he was still in charge of them and since he's no longer the director of streets. So Jamie, if you could unmute, I'd just like to have a little conversation with you for a few minutes about this, because we're going to get a lot of requests for speed humps. So I want to know how we're doing this correctly. I got my board bill that I passed, but are you still in charge of speed humps, or is that now under someone else?
I think technically, well, first of all, good morning, Madam Chairperson. I think it's still technically under the director of streets, but I think the day-to-day probably of handling these type of things would fall under the traffic commissioner. So I think it would be if it's available, but I believe it's really under the director of streets.
I understand, but right. But you're doing like, so one of the conversations I've been having with one of these city councilors is ordinances versus internal proceedings. A lot of times with street closings or even some of these street humps, we're looking at talking to the fire department or the police department, emergency vehicles, about if this is a good idea or not. So I'd asked Michael Garvin, still hasn't got back to me on this, to give me an indication about if we pass a ordinance for street humps or street closings, and then it comes up later that emergency vehicles think the fire chief thinks it's a bad idea. Okay, let's use that as for instance. Would the ordinance preempt with the internal suggestions that we have about the procedure that we should take? Or I know there are some instances where the fire chief can even override an ordinance if it's a real public safety matter, but I'm just trying, I sent you back and forth a sheet, and I'm gonna get back on it now, which we could have a check off so that before anybody would bring a speed hump, that we wouldn't run into this, because it would be checked off by yourself, the street department, fire department, emergency vehicles, just the people who need to say it. So then they couldn't come back and say, we didn't approve this. That would already be done before Alderman would come before us. So are we still kind of checking into that? And do we still have like a hold on like major streets like Kings Highway not to put, or snow routes not to put speed humps on? Is that still the rule?
Yeah, we still have our internal BPS adopted traffic calming policy. And we also, on the subject of the street closures, have an internal BPS adopted permanent street closure policy. So two policies, and the former, the traffic calming policy, mirrored your ordinance. We shared the same language on that one. So for consistency's sakes, the way it rolls out, I guess, I totally agree with the checklist, probably for both. And I guess I would look to you, which you prefer, if you'd rather have it happen at the street department level before they get to a board bill and an ordinance with you, or do you want to come in after, have the alderpersons start with a board bill and then during committee bring us in for discussion? I mean, I honestly don't care, whatever you prefer. So for a hump, do you want us to come in and discuss it at that level, or do you want me to do like a pre-filter before it gets to your committee? I could go either way with that.
I actually would like a pre-filter because I don't want people to come in and then they're upset, and that way they can have a conversation with you if it's going to be something that's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not going to tell you that sometime Alderman may, that would be your recommendation. So Alderman might come in and say, I still need this. And I gave them wiggle room in that for a reason. And that is because even when you do like, and I know this is a bad word right now, but if you do tax abatement, they can only recommend that if you should get tax abatement or not, but really it's up to the Board of Aldermen if we get 15 votes in and then go ahead and pass it anyway. So if it wasn't something major like a snow route or something like that, I wanted Aldermen to have some wiggle room, although I know we're being attacked right now. You shouldn't go to automatic courtesy, but I think that people are doing it, drawing a broad brush that is not true. That we should have. We're the people that deal with the people every day. We know if it's a stop sign or whatever that's needed. And every place you've put speed humps in my ward, and I've put a lot, the people love them. This is the first time in 30 years I haven't got reports on my side streets of accidents and people's cars being knocked up, because we have very straight streets. So they would, you could be the mayor or the president right now, actually, because of the speed humps that's been put in my community. And it really has slowed down on almost every street that we've put them on. And we've only put them on residential. We haven't put them on major streets or anything like that. But I really would like you to have the conversation before. And we're going to work out some kind of checklist so that it's done. And that way Alderman won't come in and then be upset if you come in and say, well, this is not a good idea. And they would have time to have a conversation with you. So we're going to work through this. Okay. Yeah.
And I think that we have it all set up in CityWorks, so they can do it online and check on the status of it and all that. And I think worst case scenario, I don't envision many conflicts because your ordinance is worded the same as mine is. So something that I may say is against my criteria, your criteria, both agreed on where to put it and where not to put it. So hopefully we've kind of limited the potential for conflicts.
Okay.
If you want just this permanent street closure, we can do a point too. We do have the committee that is still in effect, that involves, it's through the street director, but and ultimately internally it's a street director's call, but they have a committee to advise the street director. So it consists of police, fire, planning, BPS, et cetera, to look at it from all different lenses for planning. Do we have a development coming here? BPS, how would it be closed technically? Streets, connectivity wise between arterials, police and fire, emergency response times and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we've got all the disciplines represented to get some good advice for the street director to ultimately make that call. But if you want to do that checklist as well.
I do.
We can do that too. I know there's a couple that are probably out there that we should get on but I can work with you on a checklist for that, for both of these cases, actually.
It's a couple of streets that were closed while I was off the board, and they did the permanent curbs, and it just makes it too hard for the fire department to get down there. And I actually am getting ready to open them back up. And they're going to stay closed and they have gates. We're just gonna make the gates so that they can open and close and put a baluster or some kind of mule or something on it, because it makes it really hard. And it's much easier if we can just remove that baluster or put some kind of mule on the gates and open it. And that way the fire department can drive straight out instead of trying to back up on these small streets. So
Yeah.
it's a public safety hazard to me.
Yeah, for sure. And BPS, when they're approved and go through the ordinance and do the permanent street closure, that we've got a standard lock that's used by all the emergency providers carry, so they can maintain that access you're talking about. Yeah.
Right, but when we first started doing this, because I started closing streets in the 90s, 92, I think was my first street closure. They didn't have any of that. So while I was gone, some of the aldermen who took over different parts of my ward, they went ahead and followed and permanently closed those streets, but we didn't need them closed the way they were. And so it's kind of dangerous. And that's what I'm saying. And we didn't have a checklist. So I do want to do that, because there are people, I got some other streets I've closed, but I don't want to do it without having the baluster and something that, we've already passed the law, but I'm not going to try to implement anything until we have something that's drawn up that's able to let the public vehicles or emergency vehicles be able to drive straight through without having to back up a street, which I think is dangerous.
Yep.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, you had your hand up.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. I do have a question, if it's okay, Joseph or Gassner.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. So yeah, I really appreciate this discussion. I think it's really important. I have a board bill in front of us today, Board Bill 33, that deals with a speed hump along Eichelberger, which did have I have a petition process in my ward, and they did, the majority of residents on the street signed on and all of that. The street right next to Eichelberger is Schiller, and they have speed humps on the 4100 block and 3900 block, and that was done by petition and approved by streets in the time before we had to do an ordinance to get the humps put in. Streets approved those. The question I have, though, is, on looking at the 4000 block of Eichelberger, they're the ones who did the petition to have the speed hump, but whether or not, if streets saw that bill beforehand, would say, okay, looking at the rest of the streets around it, does it make sense for it to be 4100 and 3900 Eichelberger as it is on the street next to it? Is it better to use those sort of patterns for speed humps or not? So I guess my question is more, as this hump that was requested in my ward, how it fits in with the rest of the streets around it. And then, also I did see in the budget that there was money set aside for a citywide traffic study, which, when the ordinance did go through for aldermen putting in speed humps through ordinance, it was sort of discussed, okay, if we, what happens to this once we have a citywide plan? So I think that's probably part of the discussion as well. So yeah, the bill for Eichelberger is in front of the committee today. And I would love to hear what Streets thinks about that spot as in conjunction with the speed humps on the street over.
Yeah, I think another benefit to the pre-filter that Madam Chairperson was talking about is that we can have these discussions before, and maybe for the Eichelberger example, we can look at that street and we would actually identify exact addresses for those. And if there's already humps on a parallel street, they would complement them in their layout. Or if we saw during those discussions prior to the board bill, other areas besides Eichelberger, and I don't mean literally just Eichelberger, but if we're having that conversation, we may see some other ones that maybe were not originally envisioned that we think would benefit from this. That type of discussion could be had, so the board bill could be worded as a product of our conversation. Versus now we have a board bill that we'd have to perhaps go back and revise, which I don't know if that's a really easy thing to do anyway. So maybe it's a moot point, but we would have those discussions literally to the point of the addresses for the ones on Eichelberger, for example, or if we saw another street or location that we should do as a complement to the ones already built, already being proposed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I did send, as soon as they requested the speed hump on Eichelberger, that address, I did send an email to a few people at Street saying, does this make sense here or should it be here? And I just never heard back. And so I think if we have a formal process of, making sure that when we have a board bill that it's been approved by streets, because I did send a few emails trying to get that in place, because I agree that it's hugely important. In terms of amending a board bill, obviously we can't, right now the board bill that's in front of the committee is the 4,000 block of Eichelberger. And if we had an amendment, we could do it in committee. And then also we have a chance in perfection to amend, which is in 2 weeks. So if we have the ability in the next few weeks to get people over to Eichelberger, and if it says this is great, this works, then that's great. And I think the neighbors on the street, the people who signed it, they want their traffic to slow down on their street. So they're going to be most interested in where is this most effective and efficient within, a short range from the 4,000 block of Eichelberger, which of course 3,900, 4,100 are. But yeah, it's kind of interesting for me as an older person working through the process that we have established, trying to do it right, also wanting to make sure, I have this tool available, my constituents want this, and delivering for them. So it's kind of an interesting kind of dilemma. And I do see that my constituent who went through the process to get the petition done and have the speed hump installed, maybe he's going to raising his hand to say, no, it has to be on the 4,000 block. But I do think that the importance of getting this all talked about before the bill is hugely important. So I appreciate your time in coming to talk with us, and thank you, Madam Chair, for making this conversation available.
Okay, is it Abdullah Salama? We're not doing public comment. We're just doing like members of the board. I will suggest to you, Alderwoman, that you put more than one speed hump on your street, okay? Because so I did a couple of ones that I put only 2, that didn't work. What I find, and it depends on your speeding, and I've done a lot of them. I put one, so as soon as you come around that corner or you're coming on that street, there's a speed hump immediately so that they know, slow down. Then I at least have one in the middle and then one at the end, but sometimes I have 4 because, and I don't know how your configuration is, but we have straight through. Basically you can drive from the 4th Ward before I cut things off. You could drive from like the 3,900 on Maffett all the way up through the 5,500 because the streets were so straight. So, so people would get started and just drive through a couple of wards straight as fast as they could. So we really had to make them know that they were hitting a spot that that wanted people to slow down. And so by having that first speed hump really close to that first corner where they entered the street, that put them on notice that there were speed humps on the street. And then to put maybe one in the middle and one at the end. And sometimes I put 2 in the middle and one at the end near where the next stop sign is. And people think that's a lot, but it really slowed the traffic down. I don't know if you have that kind of traffic, but we did. And I mean, they drove 60, 70 miles on residential streets. So if I was you, even though I don't know if you just have one speed hump in your bill, because I'm not remembering now. But
Yeah,
if I was you, I might give yourself the option to have some more, okay? And you don't have to have them. You know what I'm saying? You can say, well, we don't need them, but just that one, you might find out it's not working as well as you think it would.
Right. And I really appreciate your input there. That entire area of my ward has some speeding issues. Schiller had some issues, and then Elena, which intersects with Schiller, and then Eichelberger is also one that, I'd like to do, but trying to follow the process for humps with resident engagement and petition process and figuring out the best way of moving forward. I think, this bill is important to my constituents as is, so I'd like to move forward with it. But
no problem.
I think that you're exactly right, and coming back either, with amendments in perfection or a new bill to add some more humps in that area after talking with streets and Mr. Wilson, I do just very much appreciate your time on all of this. Thank you for your input, Gerald.
Okay. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying, because we figured it out as we went along. And even so, I had to come back and add speed humps. I got triple streets, and they are really hard because there are no streets that cut into them. So they start at Kings Highway and go to Union. And so when people got on those streets, they thought they were on the Indianapolis 500. Okay, so we even had to come back, and even though we put quite a few, we had to add some more because we left a big gap someplace. And when they got to that gap, it's like they resented that they had to slow down on the street. So they gunned their cars up and there they go again. So we had to add some more, but it has worked out really well. I know there was some concerns from the administration, directive operations, but they weren't well founded. And as far as this, I want to say about this traffic study, speed humps really don't change much of a pattern. Street closures do. So where I live in Kingsway East, all of my 4900 block either have street humps or street closures, and I didn't put humps on the ones, like I live on a closed street. And I did put them there, and people talk about the traffic study. It just makes people slow down on a residential street. We're not trying to change a traffic pattern, and you still could come down. And I actually had several of the news media come and look at it, and they said, well, this is not changing the traffic pattern. And when the new director actually got here, she and I had a long conversation, and she said the overall street policy, or the study that they were going to do really wasn't going to be about residential streets and street humps. It's really more about the closings of streets, and because that's what changes the street traffic more than humps. Humps just make people slow down. Commissioner Wilson, I want to say director, Commissioner Wilson. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to bookend what we were saying with Alderman Schweitzer, she mentioned, but if there's any way to keep these in city works, my nightmare is that I miss these emails, and we get hundreds a day to streets, and I don't want to miss on something. So, and then I also want you guys to be able to, as alderpersons, be able to check on the status of your request in some central area that's, automated. So it's not a spreadsheet we're passing around, which is fine for what it is. But I think speed humps have outgrown their handwritten notes and spreadsheets status to me. So using the CityWorks option we have to put in those service requests for these allows us to have one central spot. Like I'm looking right now, we have 14 requests in currently that I could go to in my list and just click on, and I can answer. We can have that back and forth through that process, so I don't miss an email. So we can have, my ideal is to actually be able to hire people to fill our vacant spots, so they can, one of their duties would be to look at this type of thing and see how many open they have and be responsible for addressing this. So we're timely about it, and we're having these discussions that we mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Coatar, I saw your hands up. Was your question answered?
No, it was an accident. I was stretching.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, if you would just stay here for a minute in case we have a question on speed humps, Commissioner Wilson, and if you don't have anything else, I want you to lower your hands, please.
That was the first time I raised my hand before. I didn't know it stays up.
Yep. All right. Thank you. All righty. So now we can go into board bills. And I did get a petition from you, Alderman Coatar. Is that on your, no, that's on Don Kirby Way. Is what I got a petition for you.
Correct.
Right now, we're on the speed humps. Let's see if you have any, you don't have anybody to come and testify for or against, is that correct?
No, the neighborhood's very much in favor. They're aware of the hearing today, but I said I'd handle it.
All right, yeah, they thought you could do it and we would give you automatic courtesy, and oh my God. Okay, that's bad on my part. This is probably too soon for those jokes, okay? But anyway, Alderman Coatar, you are recognized to present Board Bill 24 before the Streets Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, would you please read the introduction?
I was just about to ask me if you wanted me to read it. Board Bill 24, introduced by Alderman John Coatar, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 2200 block of Indiana, 2200 block of Missouri, Mississippi Avenue between Geyer and the Interstate 44 overpass, the 2200 block of Jules Street, 2100 block of Geyer, 2000 block of Geyer, 2000 block of Ann, 2100 block of Allen, and the 2000 block of Allen Avenue.
Okay, now Alderman Coatar, you're recognized to present Board Bill 24 to the Streets.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is very Jermaine, given our discussion there moments ago about speed humps, pursuant to the ordinance, adopted and sponsored by the chair, these are speed humps that the folks in McKinley Heights, these are all in the McKinley Heights neighborhood. My constituents have been asking for these for a number of years. We did some speed studies, others didn't happen. Then COVID hit and the speed studies sort of weren't very useful. I trust my residents on these blocks. They know what they see. None of these are major roads. They're all side streets. Generally we've got a stop sign kind of between each block already. So this is something that the neighborhood's really on board with. Early on, when speed humps first became sort of allowed in the city, we did some on Ann Avenue in this same neighborhood in McKinley Heights. They're very popular. So people have been clamoring for them, and I've promised them I would do my best to get this done.
Okay. Are there any questions of the committee? Anybody on the committee have a question? I will just say, Alderman Coatar, I trust the residents too. And my whole conversation with the director of operations was, she said she didn't like the look of them. I said, I don't care if you don't like the look of them. What I care about is that the people who live on those streets feel safe, comfortable. It slows the speed down. I mean, and I've been here for long years, and for years we didn't get to speed humps. Everybody wanted bumps. And the city councilor said no. When we got that law first changed, Chris Carter did the first one, but he put it under traffic calming. I don't think we needed those speed studies. I think that was just a waste of our money. I think that we're trying to keep residents in the city of St. Louis. And if that's the kind of thing that make people feel more comfortable and they want to stay in the area, I try to give them as many as they want, okay? It hasn't had any problems with people when they had to come to do emergency vehicles. That's one of the concerns. That has not been we have I have an older population, and it slows them down a few seconds, but not anything that would be in danger of people's lives or a house burning down or anything. And I think they are very well warranted. And I do believe between the alderman and the people who live on the street, that's the best way to work it out. If it's something bigger, if you need it on a bigger street or something like that, or a secondary street, maybe we need to have some better input, but mostly I think people understand what they need. And then we got the king of stop signs here on our committee, and he puts stop signs in every place. So if there are no questions, you're recognized to close on Board Bill 24.
I would just ask the committee pass this out with a favorable do pass recommendation.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 24 be passed out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion, a second, a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 24 is passed out with a do pass recommendation. Okay, now we have Board Bill 25. Madam Clerk, would you please read the introduction?
Board Bill 25, introduced by Alderman Don Kirby, an ordinance authorizing the honorary street name of Don Kirby Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the north curb line, Lami Street, at the intersection of Lami Street and the north-south alleyway bounded by 13th Street to the east and Interstate Highway 55 to the west, and shall run north on said alleyway to the curb line of Shenandoah Avenue at intersection Shenandoah Avenue and said alleyway.
Okay. Alderman Coatar, you're recognized to present Board Bill 25 before the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a little unique, and actually I consulted with the Streets Department and Commissioner Wilson on this. This is actually an honorary street name for an alley. And so in Soulard, I think this might be a first, but in Soulard, we have a number of alley houses. Those are still very common down here. And a longtime resident of Soulard named Don Kirby, who's a past neighborhood president. His wife's very involved in the neighborhood as well. He passed away in I guess the fall of 2020 after a long battle with brain cancer. And this was something that some of the neighbors, this is a surprise, actually. Jeannie, his late wife, does not know that we're doing this. Obviously she still lives on this block. The neighbors are all thrilled. kind of a unique situation where most of the block is actually owned by Ann McDonald, who's a longtime multifamily property owner down here. She's excited about it. So I did send a petition over. She signed it. She actually didn't sign for all of her addresses, but she owns most of the parcels on the block, including the home where Miss Kirby lives, which is the alley house. So it's a little unique, doing an alley. I talked it through with streets, and they didn't see any issue with it. It's just an honorary sign anyway. So the hope here is we can get this passed and get it presented to her at next month's Soulard Restoration Group meeting.
Okay. Are there any people on the committee anybody on the committee that has a question for Alderman concerning Board Bill 25? I see a couple of aldermen, I'm sorry, that are not on the committee. Anyone not on the committee have a question for the alderman for Board Bill 25? Hearing none, I entertain a motion that we pass out Board Bill 25 with the do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous row.
Hey, Madam Clerk, did you get who said that? Because I didn't.
I got 23 made the motion, 13 seconded, and 3 requested previous roll.
Okay.
Got
All
it.
right. I have a motion and a second, a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 25 is passed out with a do pass recommendation. Okay, thank you. I think that's all you have, Alderman.
Thank you, Madam
And
Chair.
I
I got a
think that's-
delivery person banging on my door, so I'm going to go. Thanks.
All right, well, good luck. Okay, next we have Board Bill 32. Let's see, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard. If you would please read the introduction to Board Bill 32, Madam Clerk.
Board Bill 32, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 5800 block of Clams between the intersection of Clams Avenue and Goodfellow Boulevard and Clams Avenue and Hamilton Avenue on the 5500 block of Cates Avenue between the intersection of Cates Avenue and Belt Avenue and Cates Avenue and Clara Avenue.
I see that Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. See you have 2 people. Do you have any more? Because you always like to show out just to show that you can have lots of community participation. Is there more than 2? You didn't add 5 or 6.
Listen, let me say, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Ain't none of this about showing out. This is about making sure, I'm following your lead to make sure that people are engaged and transparency is fulfilled over here as we move their request forward. But one of them was not able, doesn't look like he was able to get on. I will definitely speak. I'm absolutely able to speak on all of their behalf, but I do have First Lady Pam Hayes on the call if she needs to be sworn in.
Right, okay. All right. Hi, Miss Hayes, First Lady Hayes, how are you today? You need to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to have to ask you to take an oath of affirmation, or some people will do a solemnly swear, some people do affirm. Which one do you prefer?
I'll affirm.
Okay, would you raise your right hand and say and say your full name, please?
Pamela Hayes.
Okay, do you, Pamela Hayes, affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you are recognized to present Board Bill 32 to the Streets Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This is again in line with our speed hump conversation this morning. This is a board bill for 2 sets of speed humps, both on 5800 blocks, one of Clemens and one of Maple. I'm glad that Jamie, if you're still on here, I do want to do a public ask that one of the speed humps on Maple be placed in front of the church. And it was the pastor that was going to come on today, but I guess he wasn't able to make it on, but I'll make sure I give you the exact address. It's right there, kind of at Maryville and Maple. And then I will ask Ms. Hayes if she would speak on behalf of the 5800 block of Clemens.
Okay, recognize Ms. Hayes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am the chairperson for the block unit. 1663A for the 5800 block of Clemens. And we are advocating very hard for speed humps on our street. There are approximately 20 to 23 school-age children that live on our block. We are a gated community at the west end of our street at Hamilton Avenue. And we do have the gates that open that provide access to emergency personnel when needed. But our street has a sign at the corner of Clemens and Goodfellow that tells people that the street is not a through street. But I don't know why they blow through that sign and they fly down our street at 40 to 50 miles an hour. In the summertime, children are playing, they're riding their bikes, they're on skates in the street. We've had the gate actually knocked down because a car was speeding through and tore the gate down last year. It took a while to get it replaced because of COVID, but we just want to make sure our block is a safe block for our children. We have children with disabilities that live here that ride their bikes in the street as well. I'm a grandmother and we have to sit out front.
Stop for a minute. You are a what? Y'all you look like you're about 25 years old.
No, ma'am. I have 10 grandchildren.
Oh, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you. So at any given time, you know, we have children that are playing and we've had kids ride out of the driveway into the street, you know, because it's a safe neighborhood, but we have cars running down the street constantly. People blow the stop signs on Goodfellow in Hamilton all the time, but to turn down our street to come flying thinking they can get through and then they can't, so they have to turn around and come back out. So we just really want to deter this speeding traffic that's not residential traffic to our area.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Alderwoman, I would suggest to you, so I'm going to tell you one of the things that I do. The street department may not want me to tell this, but I actually go, when I put speed humps on, I'll go down and I mark every place and write down the address and send it to them saying, this is where I want my speed humps, okay? So that's how I am, all right? A little controlling, but it really works, okay? So before they start doing them, that's to me, they already have them. I send it to streets and I send it to BPS and to Donald. So they already know, put it here, 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 here. And Sterling and I actually, my committee man / husband, we actually drive down the street, but he's driving and I'm marking out, okay, this is a good spot for one, then, okay, this is another one. So you should put in where you want them so that they work. And again, a suggestion to you, if you put one close to wherever they come right on the street, it puts them on notice. Oh, there's speed humps on this street, okay? And I have people who tell me they love it when they hit that first speed hump. And then they think that then they hit that second speed hump and then they go, oh, it's speed humps on here. In fact, they love it when the contractor comes out and cuts the, you know, they cut a hole to put the speed humps in. And then when they put that hole in that pavement, that right there slows them down. In fact, I've had people say, well, they don't even have to put the speed humps because as soon as they cut that in there and they hit ba-boom, ba-boom. And I've had the young people call me and say, you're tearing up my car. And I'm like, sweetie, how am I tearing your car up? Well, my muffler, I said, that's because you're driving too fast. We put them there just for you. So please, please slow down. Okay, so that really does work, saying if you know where you want them and you space them far enough apart. And I would also say to you, if you don't think you have enough, maybe drive that street and make sure you have enough so that you don't have to come back and that they don't have enough speed, enough room to get up too much speed, okay? And I would suggest that you come and drive in my 4,900 blocks, you know, and you'll see them. I have them on, and they're on joists on the 50 through the 5,300 block. And I had somebody go on one of them the other day and they said, oh, I'm not ever coming down that street anymore. And I said, and my residents, thank you, because they were cutting through. So they said, well, we'll go down St. Louis Avenue. Good, that's what they're there for too. So make sure you get enough and where you want them. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know, Jamie had his hand up.
Yes, I see it.
Oh.
Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I was just going to add, it doesn't bother me at all that if someone submits where they want the layout. I guess a couple things. I've got a general layout in mind because there's you know, some minimum and maximum spacing you space them apart to have the effect that you're looking for. So I don't want someone going through and putting one thinking that's going to take care of the issue when I would, You don't want them any more than maybe 500 feet apart. You don't want them any closer than, several hundred. So, but then if you propose, if I lay them out, then I'll have addresses. And then as part of your ward liaison, writing it up as a project, it also, I guess, is ultimately on the alderperson to contact or keep that contact with the resident. Who's gonna have the hump in front of their address, so there's no surprises. Some may love it, some may hate it. So that's another reason. But then if you do propose it, I can double check it against those parameters, and that's fine. Maybe to tweak, have that conversation. But yeah, it doesn't really bother me at all. So that's all right.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Evans, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have a question in that I've had speed humps put down, but I think I need to add another speed hump on that same street. Is that possible?
Commissioner Wilson? You're recognized.
Yeah, I just realized I still have my hand up, so I lowered it. Yeah, this may be a procedural thing, Madam Chairwoman. I don't know if we've had a return, so would that be considered a new?
No,
request?
that's still the same.
Okay, so yeah, since it's the same area, we could call it, that was already approved prior to, would require a board bill and follow-up ordinance for that. I would probably still suggest the alderperson put that through CityWorks, so we don't have a parallel operation going here where I've got a list within CityWorks for all the humps, and then I got an email on it. So even though it doesn't require a board bill, I'd say we still put it in CityWorks, so we have all speed humps after this date are on CityWorks in one place. So if we ever have to provide a list of all speed humps after a date, I got one spot where I can export it or provide that access. So I would say the alderperson put that in, and then that would go straight to, assuming, yeah, we approved it already. So it'd be a pretty quick approval from the street department's perspective. And then we can issue a task order directly to BPS and their contractor to do so.
Oh, excuse me. You said to put in this request in the what department?
So the all of the alderpersons have in an email some instructions on how to submit this stuff online for humps. It's where you put your original hump request in. So instead of emailing the street department for one, you would follow online and then fill out the necessary information, and it gets routed directly to us here at Streets because of our interface to that system. And then we'll be able to answer it to the alderperson through that system. So we have access to it. The alderpersons have access to it. It's kind of an internal communications that is automated versus just emails here and there.
Thank you.
Evans, either if you're not haven't used CityWorks before, your secretary or probably your neighborhood improvement specialist or Mr. Williams could probably help you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I will
Thank you.
help you. Okay.
And I know the IT department offered some assistance, whether it's in the form of, and this is for you, Madam Chairwoman, if this is something maybe you want to facilitate through your committee. I know they've offered out and train people that are just now getting into it. Some people may have received some training or some orientation with CityWorks, but I think IT, now that people are getting down and actually filling out their requests, it's a little different now when you have to go that first time. So I know IT are very good at helping people with that type of thing. So we could always explore that as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions of Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard regarding Board Bill 32? Any questions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion that Board Bill 32 be passed out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
All of the above.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you
Madam
all.
Clerk. Madam Clerk, okay, tell me who said what.
I know, right?
I did have Alderman Bosley that made the motion. I didn't get who seconded, and Alderman Vaccaro requested previous roll.
The second was
I
Alderwoman
second.
Wood.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, when I do want to add in my introduction, I forgot to mention that also for speed humps on this bill was the 5500 block of case, but you and I share plenty of friends on that block who I know would trust both of us speaking and advocating on behalf of them. So I didn't invite them. So again, you know, this ain't
I've
about
gotten
the show. This is
petitions,
about
letters. I keep telling them I am not the alderwoman of the 20. See, you have
Right.
us, we look just alike, but we are not the same. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I did
Thank
not
you,
let you
Alana.
close, but you don't need to close.
Oh,
Got a motion and a second and a call for previous roll. Is there any objections to previous roll? Hear none. Your board bill 32 is passed out with a do pass recommendation.
thank
Okay,
you, Alana.
and thank you, Mrs. Hayes. Okay, the next one is board bill 33, Alderwoman Ann Schweitzer. Madam Clerk, would you please read the introduction to Board Bill 33?
Board Bill 33, introduced by Alderwoman Ann Schweitzer, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 4000 block of Eichelberger Street.
Okay. Alderwoman Schweitzer, let me see. You don't have anybody here.
Not as
But
a
it's-
guest, but in support, there is someone here.
You do have one person,
In support.
Mr. Abdullah Salama.
Yes, Madam
Is
Chair.
he still here?
Yes, I believe he is still here.
Mr. Salama?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you're going to testify, I need to see your picture.
All right, give me one.
Not your
second.
picture, I need to see your face, actually.
Yeah, I know. Let me open up the camera. 1 second.
All right, thank you.
Can you see me now?
I can, thank you very much. Mr. Salama, do you prefer to solemnly swear, or do you want to affirm?
Solomon swear.
Okay, Mr. Salama, would you raise your right hand and say your full name?
My name is Abdullah Salama.
Mr. Abdullah Salama, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So help you?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, Alderwoman Schweitzer, you're free to present your board bill to 33 before the committee, Streets Committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. As we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, this area of the ward, I have several residents who've asked about traffic calming measures, lots of different issues with speeding on those blocks around there. So the residents of the 4000 block, of which Mr. Salama led, petition gathering process. I think he got all the signatures in like 24 hours or something like that. So there's definitely a lot of desire on the street for traffic calming. I appreciate the committee's favorable consideration of this bill.
Okay. Mr. Salama, you have testimony?
Yes, ma'am. So as you guys have mentioned, and I appreciate you mentioning before about how that you need to add multiple ones on the street, which I have had concern. I do have a lot of Hispanic people either to my right or to my left, and they barely speak English. So I had a couple of most of them are families. They live next to each other. So some of them are able to translate for me. And one of them was father of my neighbor, and he's about 6 houses down, which is about a distance enough that we can put 2 bumps. And he asked me, and I said, I'm only able to request 1. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do 2 or 3 on the street. And that is the issue we have, is people going there, driving over 100 miles an hour. I do have a camera on there on the front, and I catch like videos, and that was the first thing I did. I sent, and they told me if you can get the neighbors to sign, we are able to present it to you guys as a board and to get approval from you guys.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So I will say that the Alderwoman has indicated that she would be open to looking at more additional speed humps. I think you should get with her.
Yes.
And the way her board bill is written, it says speed humps. So that gives her wiggle room. That's good. It doesn't say
Okay.
1 speed hump. So
Thank you.
it'll be this conversation. That's why you should work with your alderpersons very carefully. This conversation you will have with her, and I'm sure she'll do what she can to do what's in the best interest to keep your street safe. Thank you for coming and testify.
Thank you very much.
Are there any people on the committee who have any questions of Alderwoman Schweitzer regarding Board Bill 33? Any Alder people that are not on the committee that have questions regarding Board Bill 33? Hearing none, I entertain a motion that Board Bill 33 be passed out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Roll.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that Board Bill 33 be passed out with a do pass recommendation. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 33 is passed out with a do pass recommendation. I want to apologize, she's gone now, to Alderwoman Ingracia. I thought that her board bill, I asked for it to be put on this next week's calendar. It's not, it will be Wednesday. I'll make sure because we're gonna have another meeting next Wednesday. So I'll make sure because it's not here. And I thought it was supposed to be. Okay. Now we have before us, I think we did all the board bills, and we have before us resolution number 33, introduced by Alderman Joseph Vaccaro. Madam Clerk, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution 33, introduced by Alderman Joseph Vaccaro. Now therefore let it be resolved that this honorable Board of Aldermen supports a comprehensive study of the cost and timing for implementing an emergency vehicle preemption system as part of the city's smart city infrastructure development efforts, and requests that the Department of Public Safety initiate such a study as soon as possible.
Okay, Alderman Vaccaro, you're free to present your resolution to the Streets Committee.
So what this does, and you saw it on Elliott Davis on the You Paid for It, but St. Charles has these cameras, and even they was not that awful expensive. And I would think this, we should do this and make a lot of sense. So when an ambulance or a fire truck is going through a major intersection, they got these cameras up on top. They have a way of controlling and turning the lights green so that the traffic's cleared. And I don't know how many of us say, no, I've been stuck on Hampton in traffic, and you got the fire truck and the ambulance blowing its horn. You don't know, what should I do? I want the guy in front of me to go. Then they have to go around and go into head on traffic to go around those cars. And I'm sure if you talk to the fire chief, I know that we used some of the COVID money, because I also have those, to replace a couple of the ambulances that have been hit in the middle of those intersections. So this is asking for the, and I'm open to whatever thoughts are, but that we do a study, look into the cost, and try to put a program in that at least on major intersections that we're able to do this. And again, you've seen the police chases. Well, they said they weren't chasing, but anyway, either way, you see where cars, people have been hit and killed, roughly 5 people recently. And that's kind of what made me put this together. And the county is also put the exact same resolution in play. So I would ask that we would pass this out of committee, I guess, and send it, to the full board to send it to public safety so that they can, put it in their court to start looking into costs. And I'm certainly perfectly willing to sponsor the board bill, as we start to put this together. And it's a pretty simple thing, and that's what it is. And I'm open to questions if anyone has any.
If you don't mind, since we have the Commissioner of Traffic, I would just like to, before we open it up to questions, if Mr. Wilson, if you knew anything about this, how the system works, and you kind of, I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's all right. I am aware of the system. The city used to have a system like that 20-something years ago. It was based on some, not even close to the technology they have now. Basically what it does is there's physical equipment installed at each traffic signal where you want this to take effect. And it was optical based, where there were emitters installed on the fire trucks. I don't believe the ambulances actually had. I think it was just limited to fire trucks, where optically, as a fire truck approaches an intersection, the receiver that's installed at the traffic signal would receive that and then interface with the traffic signal controller to say they want to preempt the normal timing plans to flush out traffic to allow the fire truck to get through easier than they had before. Like I said, that was based on older technology. Now it's all internet based and GPS location based. There wouldn't even be a need for physical installation of equipment at the traffic signals. There probably would on the actual fire trucks still to let probably cloud-based service know where they're at. And then there'd be an interface on the traffic signal, our central management server that is connected to all our traffic signals. So that would be the interaction from the fire truck to the cloud to our server, which is connected to fiber optics to all of our signals, and then do that. So it wouldn't be at every intersection cabinet. And that would alert them to preempt a whole series of signals, where before it was limited to just where the equipment is installed. So that the benefit obviously would be much greater implementation of that. I know the firemen themselves have some different opinions on the impact of the benefit versus what you think you're going to get, where it's going to flush people out. There's only so much space you can, like Hampton, for example, you can flush them. I don't know where they're going to go to truly get out of the way. And I really, my opinion really doesn't matter in that respect. That's emergency providers. They themselves question some of the benefit of it, but that said, from the traffic division's perspective, aside from the public safety benefit, one of the concerns we have in the older technology, and I hope they've hammered this out a little better since then, is when you come in and preempt your normal timing plan operations to flush them out, as I said, and the fire truck goes, what happens afterwards is the traffic signals stay out of step for several traffic signal cycles till it gets back in sync. And during that time, the coordination is out of whack. So for example, Hampton and 44, you could be turning the ramp directly into a red light at the very next signal, and it jams up until things catch back up, after 10 minutes or so. And if you're in the middle of a peak hour of commuter traffic, the impact of that staggering back, you probably won't recover during that same morning peak. And I absolutely say this just from the perspective of traffic division, aside from public safety, that's something that you would concede if it's for the benefit of public safety. I totally get that. So just letting everybody know what the impacts, the full range of that type of technology is. So, but again, I hope they've improved on that, because it was pretty brutal back in the day, both in the way it operated in preemption and the way it recovered once the fire trucks were gone. But I would suggest there's probably cooperation that would happen between the Department of Public Safety, Department of Streets, and then maybe BPS as the middle ground for, maybe we explore internally the technology, the current stuff that's available. And then if that's adequate enough, then maybe some sort of RFQ is put out through Board of Public Service or something like that. We had to speak with Rich Bradley about that, but it could probably go out a number of different ways.
Okay. So what I heard you say is that once that the fire truck goes through, emergency vehicle goes through, and the lights are no longer coordinated, that it takes some time, it used to anyways, for it to get back to being coordinated, right? Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct.
Okay. And that could be up to, I guess, and this was years ago, that could be up to 5-10 minutes or more, right?
Yeah, at least, like, just for example, a normal traffic signal cycle could be 2 minutes long. So it could take several cycles to get back in, which could run, 5 to 10 minutes before it finally gets back to where it needs to be.
Okay. And but we don't know for sure what that timing would be in this current situation with the new technology. Or do you know? Have you got any reports about anything like that?
I've heard it's better. I have not heard that it's, so it probably won't be as bad as it was before, but I would be surprised to find out if it's seamless where it goes through. Because actually by definition couldn't be seamless, because you just, if you're due up on the side street to come up, the emergency vehicle came through and preempted your normal plans, it obviously that side street's not going when it's supposed to. So it's at least going to take a cycle or two, which is already going to be 4 minutes in my example.
And how do you control? So like I'm Kings Highway, which most of my streets are closed off of Kings Highway, so they can go through. My issue is that the people who are driving on the streets don't know how to get out of the way of the emergency vehicles. They just keep driving like, excuse me, I grew up, you're supposed to pull over, okay? But would it interfere with any nearby traffic signal, maybe a block away, or those that it wasn't really trying to deal with? Or does it contain itself right on the street that you're trying to control?
Yeah, it's my understanding that you could probably configure it just about any way. Like it can even tell what lane you're in when you turn your turn blinker on. It can look ahead to the signals that are off there. So if I'm on Hampton, for the example we've had, and I'm turning off on the Watson, for example, it may look up at Watson instead of the signals that were further downstream on Hampton. So it won't interrupt their service if it knows the route is going with that turn signal to the right on Watson. So I'm sure there's a number of ways you could configure it. And that was probably almost true back then with some. So I guarantee it's probably way more powerful than even that was back then as it is now with current technology.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anybody on the committee have a question for the sponsor or Commissioner Wilson? Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thank you so much. Yeah, my question is, this same resolution came forward at the county around the same time, and I was just wondering if there was coordination there, or if anyone in particular brought this to you, or how that all came to be.
No, actually, I saw the same story that the county council saw. I did the resolution actually first. They copied, at least as far as I know. And what this is, it goes to what Jamie was talking about. They'll study and then come back and say, okay, this is what we found. This is what the cost is. Can we use, the ARPA money, and that's exactly what this does. This says, how does it work? We want them to study what is the best way to do this, how it works. They may come back and say, no, it's just not a good idea. But this resolution is asking them to look into how it works, come back to the, I would think in this case, in the streets committee, to say, this is what we found. This is the cost, whether it's a one-time cost or an ongoing cost. We don't know. But I do know that after seeing 4 people ending up basically in a tree over by the casino, when we talk about cars getting out of the way, at least possibly those lights where the people were crossing may have been stopped. We don't know. We don't know. But if we stop to cross traffic, you talk about getting out of the way of stuff. But if a police car is somewhat in pursuit, I don't know how that works. And again, this is what we're trying to find out. If we would have stopped that cross traffic and only allowed the traffic going in the one direction that the police car was going in, or the pursuit was going in, because they said they do pursue certain things, that could have saved lives from the cross traffic, stopping that. So, but we don't know. So this resolution, which actually Lou Golly put together for me, our attorney, and it's just a real simple resolution. It's not a board bill, it's a resolution. But a board bill, we want to have a board bill to follow when we have a board bill that makes sense, that this is what we'd like to do. Then, once we did that, then it would have to go out for bid, do the RFPs and all the different steps that you would take. But again, this is it's pretty simple. It's just asking them to do a study and come back to us and let us know if this even makes sense or not. I personally think it makes a lot of sense. And not again, not just for the fire trucks, but the police cars and having to do with cross traffic. Because a lot of times you'll see the police cars, they're moving pretty good. And I can tell you with my car, and I got a newer car, if I got the radio on or the doors closed, they're pretty, you don't hear a lot, you know? So it just seems like a really good idea. And that's what this does. Did that answer your question, I hope?
Yeah, I was just wondering kind of if there was, I didn't see a report or anything, and I just wondered why the city and county had it at the same time, kind of similar language, but I appreciate you answering.
Well, I will blame all that on Elliot Davis, who did a story on St. Charles that has these and said, I wonder why the county and city doesn't have this. And then I started getting phone calls from people saying, Joe, why don't we have this? That's just a really good question. And then Elliot has already followed it up because the county, I guess, saw what we were doing, or did theirs at the same time. But this is based off of, Elliot Davis's story. Why doesn't all the communities have this? And I don't have a good answer for it. So I did the resolution, and it seemed like after I wrote mine, the county did theirs. But the NAACP and the clergy and everyone stood with the press conference that was done in the county, where they said, gee, we want this. And the county council's committed to trying to figure it out. And we're not the county council, we don't, they're gonna come back to us and tell us if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I am certainly in favor of it.
Me too.
And I think most of my constituents are. And if the street department wants to come back or somebody and say, no, this is a bad idea, then it's on them. But I will argue that this is probably a very good idea. And I bet the family of the people that got hit while a car went through a red light, while they had a green light. Now, if that light would have been red and stopped them because they knew this was coming on, that car wouldn't have been in the middle of the intersection and get hit. And those folks wouldn't be dead today. So, there's a lot of reasons why this is probably a good idea, at least in my mind. So that's what it's based off of. Is Elliot Davis's story. We could blame Elliot.
Okay, are there any other people on the committee who have questions? Any people, any aldermen that not on, all the people on that not on the committee that have questions? Alderwoman Rice? Alderwoman Evans? Okay, I just want to say I like the idea too, especially because it's a study, and so that'll give us time to find out. I want to add my name, and I wish there was a way, because what the alderman from the 23rd said about people having their radios up too loud and things. I wish there was a way that when the emergency vehicles was coming through, that would be something that would flash in your car to make you aware of something. I'm hoping in the future that they put that like in your, with all the satellite radios and stuff, that they put something inside your car so that you will know, because I am greatly concerned. Because if I hear the sirens, I look around and I pull over, but I'm greatly concerned that I think people drive with the radios way too loud and they don't hear what's going on. And so we need something flashing, or we need to limit the how loud the radios can be in a car. Because I don't think you need to have the radios so loud that you can't hear when the sirens are coming by you, and that is dangerous. And it also, I would like to say to people who do that, is that you risk people's lives. And especially if it's an ambulance or something like that, that could be your loved one in that ambulance, and you need to pull out the way. The rule of the road is when they're coming, that you get out the way, you pull to the right and let them have priority. And I see so many people who try to outrun the emergency vehicles, and that is a mistake, and that could cost lives. So I would ask people in the city of St. Louis to stop trying to outrun the emergency vehicle. Whatever you're doing, it's not more important than what's going on then, and please pull to the right and let them pass you. And I would like to add my name, Alderman, if you don't mind, to your
Yes, please.
resolution.
anybody that would like to add their name, I think it's a real good idea.
Okay, Alderwoman from the 14th, I see your hand up.
I would like to be added too. I've been listening. I just, since we're doing this now, let me add my name, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Alderwoman from the 4th.
Yes, I would also like to have my name added as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else
Madam Chair, can we, as a committee, and bank it?
from the committee?
Yes, I would ask that it be in banked. If
That's
it's
a
no
motion.
objections.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And we have previous roll.
I'd ask for
Previous
previous
roll.
roll.
Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 23 is now, has everyone's name from the committee. And I'd entertain a motion that I'm sorry, not Board Bill, resolution. I'd entertain a motion that resolution 33 be passed out with a due pass recommendation.
Second,
Well, I'll make the motion to pass.
Okay, he's got the motion. Now you can second it.
and previous roll, second previous roll.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, a call for previous roll that resolution 33 be passed out with a due pass recommendation in bank from the committee. Is there any objections for previous roll? Hearing none, resolution 33 is passed out with a due pass resolution and bank from the committee. Thank you all.
Thank you. No, thank you all.
Okay, is there anything that anyone likes to bring before the committee? Alderwoman Howard, your hand is still up. I don't know if you have a question or not. Okay, thank you.
Do not.
Okay, I like your new do. That's beautiful. Does anybody else have anything that needs to come before the committee? Okay, I'd move that we adjourn the Streets Committee until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you.